Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today we're going to be talking about a potential trade for the San Antonio Spurs that would send Knicks shooting guard Evan Fournier to the San Antonio Spurs. As in the last couple days, reports have been flying around about Evan Fournier and a potential trade to go to San Antonio. First, we heard Evan Fournier say that he wouldn't mind joining the San Antonio Spurs, and that is, San Antonio is one of the places he would like to go, as the Knicks have been looking to move him since the trade deadline. And Evan Fournier has made it clear he thinks he's expected to be traded this offseason before the regular season starts. And the San Antonio Spurs, they have interest in him as well. We're going to talk about his stats, and then we're going to talk about potential trades to land Evan Fournier in San Antonio. I have 3 ideas. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about is if this is a trade San Antonio should do. Let's go over it. So Evan Fournier, I'm going to go over his stats. He has spent his last 2 seasons with the New York Knicks. This season, he had a good year. It's just, he wasn't playing. I mean, he only played 27 games, but started in 7 games, was only playing 17 minutes per game, which is, the lowest in his career since he was a rookie. He's never been that low since he was a rookie in 2012, in the 2012-13 season, when he averaged 11 minutes per game. And since then, he hasn't had a season where he, was under 20 minutes per game in a year. And so this was just a year where he wasn't playing as much as he had in his whole career. He, not only that, but most of his career he's played a lot in the season. This was the most. He played only 27 games during the regular season. Before that, the least amount of games he'd played in a regular season was 42. Usually was healthy, if not most of the year, a good part of the year. Last year with the Boston Celtics and Orlando Magic in the 2021 season, played 42 games. Last year with the Knicks, played 80 games and started in every 80 games he played in. He started in every single game. And then in the 2019-20 season with the Magic, played in 66. 2018-19 season with the Magic, played in 81. 17-18 with the Magic, 57. 2016-17, 68. 15-16 with the Magic, 79. Then the year before that, 58. And then the year before that, 76. So, this was the least amount he's played in a season for sure. And he did solid when he was on the court. He averaged 6 points per game. He averaged over assists per game. He averaged almost a steal per game. He averaged 2 rebounds per game. His three-point percentage was also another career low, 30% from 3. Before that, his three-point percentage has never been, below 35%. So this was the lowest his three-point percentage has ever been in his career. But I just think this was an all-around bad year for Evan Fournier, especially a guy when he's not officially in the rotation. But let's go over his stats last season with the New York Knicks when he was a starter for the whole season. He missed 2 games during the regular season, and those were the only 2 games he did not start. So he played in 80 games, and he started in every single game he played. He averaged over 14 points per game, 14.1 points per game. He averaged 2.1 assists per game. He averaged 3 rebounds per game. He averaged 1 steal per game, and he averaged a half a block per game. His three-point percentage was 39%, and it was really solid. And then with Boston, in the 2021 season, Boston acquired him at the trade deadline. In the 2021 season, he played 16 games in Boston in the second half of the year with 10 starts, averaged 13 points per game with 3 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, and his three-point percentage was 46%, which is a career high for Evan Fournier. Before he got traded to the Boston Celtics, he averaged the most points per game he's ever had in a season with the Magic that year. He averaged 19.7 points per game with the Magic in the 26 games he played there in the 2021 season. In the 2019-20 season, he averaged 18.5 points per game. The 2018-19 season, he averaged 15 points per game. His three-point percentage has always been very good in those, in the last couple years he's been in the NBA. Now now that I've gone over his stats, you hear me, talking about his stats. He's a good player. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a good scorer. Now he's a good veteran. He's over a 10-year veteran. And let's talk about a couple of trades I think could work to land Evan Fournier in San Antonio. So here's the first one I've thought over. So you have two players and two other assets going to New York. You have Jenny Osman, who averaged almost 9 points per game with the Cavaliers this season and is a really solid shooter and a really solid defender. And Kim Birch, who's a solid center who averaged over 2 points per game and 1.5 rebounds per game with not a lot of playing time. And when he's had playing time before with the Toronto Raptors, he was very successful and had a decent season or two. And then a second-round pick and then cash considerations for Evan Fournier. So the Knicks get Jenny Osman, who I think would be a good addition for them off the bench. Good defensive player, good scorer, good three-point shooter, good in the paint as well. Kim Birch, solid center, decent block shotter, decent rebounder, decent scorer in the paint. I think the only problem with him, just like Evan Fournier, is he has a problem on getting on the floor. It's not like he has a problem, staying healthy. His problem is, with the Raptors and the Spurs, his last, season or two, or last season and a half, he has not been played at all. So it's been a problem for him. And then a second-round pick and then cash consideration. That is one deal I think could get it done. Here's another that I think could potentially get it done. So this one, the Spurs would actually have to add in a little more. The Knicks would have to add in a little more. The Knicks would send Evan Fournier, and then they would send a second-round pick to San Antonio, and in return, the Spurs would send Doug McDermott, who averaged 13.6 points per game this year and is a good three-point shooter, to New York. I would love the addition for New York. I just don't know if San Antonio does Evan Fournier for Doug McDermott, but maybe a second-round pick alongside Evan Fournier makes that trade potentially better. I think the only thing that really makes it, really makes it worse is that Evan Fournier is kind of on a one-year contract. He has 2 years left on his deal, but there is a team option, and his team option is going to be like an $18.5 million team option, and there's no way in hell the San Antonio Spurs are going to accept that $18 million team option if they trade for Fournier. So he'll be a free agent next year. Whoever, in my opinion, I think whoever acquires Evan Fournier, it doesn't matter who he's playing for, that team's going to decline that $18.5 million team option that he has. So he's a 1-year rental, and then Doug McDermott I think has like 2 or 3 years left on his deal. So I think it's 2. Yeah, I think it's 2 years left on his deal, and I don't think there's a team or player option on that. So I wouldn't be surprised if San Antonio wouldn't feel comfortable to do an Evan Fournier for Doug McDermott swap, but maybe sending a second-round pick makes that trade a little bit more comfortable. So then this is the trade that I think is most likely not to happen. It would send Evan Fournier. Just Evan Fournier to the San Antonio Spurs, and in return, two second-round picks and Reggie Bullock, who's already played for the Knicks, and that's one of the reasons why I don't think they trade for him again after just, having him on the roster. What was it, like the 2021 season, I think he was there. So I really doubt the Knicks would want him, and they just acquired him from Dallas in a 3-team sign-and trade with Grant Williams. I really doubt that one happens, but that is a trade that would work. Reggie Bullock and 2 second-round picks to the New York Knicks for Evan Fournier, although I think that is the most likely trade out of the 3 I've just said, that is the most likely not to happen. But I think maybe Jenny Osman and Kim Birch and a second-round pick and cash considerations for Evan Fournier could work. Maybe if the Spurs are willing to do it, Doug McDermott and a second-round pick for Fournier would work. And maybe there are a couple other trades the San Antonio Spurs could work through to land them Evan Fournier. That's the only thing I could, those are the only trades I could really, think of. Maybe Spurs would be willing to give up Devontae Graham. I just don't really see, New York wanting Devontae Graham, just because of the fact that, look how many guards New York has. They have Jalen Brunson. They have, Dante DiVincenzo, who they just signed. They have Josh Hart. They have Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickley. I know some of those guys like Josh Hart. I know like some of those guys like Emmanuel Quickley and Quentin Grimes have a chance to get traded. And that's not even the end of the list of their guards. They also have guys like Miles McGribe, who was solid for the Knicks last year. So I just don't see the Knicks, with all the guard talent they have on their roster, wanting another guard to come in. So I don't think the New York Knicks would want Devontae Graham in a trade, sending Evan Fournier to the Spurs. So I think it's either... I think the two most guys that the Knicks are going to want from San Antonio are going to be either Doug McDermott or Jenny Osman, or maybe even both. Because New York, what it's looking like is they might be crazy expensive on Evan Fournier. That's just the kind of sense I'm thinking of. But it should be interesting to see who goes out there and trades for Evan Fournier. Should San Antonio do it? I say yes. I would love the veteran experience with Evan Fournier. I know they've added in some veteran experience. They've added in guys like Cameron Payne, Reggie Bullock, Jenny Osman. Who else have they added in? I think that's pretty much it, with, new guys on the roster. But, I mean, you got a good three-point shooter. I mean, when Evan Fournier plays, he is a baller. Don't look at his don't look at his last season, because he was not playing. Tom Thibodeau was not playing him enough. He was not barely playing him at all. So a revamp with the Spurs, I think, it's a perfect fit. He wants to play with Wemby. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, one of the biggest reasons he wants to, come to San Antonio. And I just think he'd be a good fit for San Antonio. And maybe he's a starter. Who knows? I doubt it, but that is something he's been throughout his career. Besides this season, he's been a starter throughout most of his career. I would love the addition for San Antonio. I just think that the tricky thing is getting a trade done with the New York Knicks. But if they can make it happen, if I'm San Antonio, you definitely go for that trade. User thoughts on the potential trade. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out. Let me know your thoughts.